one?
too.
That's good.
Are you, somebody
Go
should,
for it.
You want
I want the clicker.
the
No,
clicker?
she needs
Everybody signed in.
Go for it.
Sign in.
I've never used one of these before and I'm super excited. Do you have to point it?
No.
Did it work?
Totally works.
Okay,
Super.
here's who we are. We all met.
I think so.
Would you
Informally.
please tell us a little bit about like your background, like as far as like how long have you been doing teaching at externships
Yeah.
or whatever?
Because I
Are
love
we gonna do that or are we
K-Crews.
gonna do that when we do
We
our?
can do it now, we'll just do, yeah,
Alright,
let's
we're
do
good.
kind of brief introductions now, and then we'll
Yeah.
kind of talk about our programs more specifically, so we
Okay.
can start.
So I'm at Mitchell Hanlon and I'm the externship director. I've been doing that for 2 years, but I've been on the faculty for 25. I got asked to do it when we had a full-time person, staff, who left and we didn't have money to replace him, so we just added the job to me, which has been, to my load, which has been great. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's been great. It's, because I think there's a real advantage to being on the faculty and being in this position, and I enjoy it very much, so.
And so is this post the merger?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, yep.
So I am also at Mitchell Hanlon, and I am on the faculty, and I originally kind of started there teaching in our business curriculum and heading up our business institute. I came out of practice and a few years ago and started there in a teaching capacity. And then about a year and a half or so ago, we got, right after the combination, we got a new dean, and he asked me to oversee our career services office as well, so that was kind of that. So now I have kind of a foot in both camps. I continue to teach, but also direct kind of what's happening with career services, and part of that was very intentional, which we'll talk about, and
Yeah.
you know, an intentional kind of effort to integrate career services with the curriculum piece of it.
Yeah.
So it was a strategic choice on his part. It was a good choice, but
I do.
it was a strategic one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm Adam Brown. I'm at St. Thomas in Minneapolis, not Miami. I put a lot of job postings for Miami, but
We're both hollering groupies.
what's that?
We're both hollering groupies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I work,
yeah.
I work with Neil and Jerry quite a bit. I know a lot more about professional formation than I would, and then academic side. But so I'm the assistant director of career and professional development, and I have been managing our externship program for I guess 5 semesters now, which sounds better than a year and a half. So I say 5 semesters. It's kind of like how old your kid? 18 months.
Yeah.
Just one. Yeah. So. Yeah, so this has been really fun for me. I came from private practice. I started full-time at the school about 3 years ago, but they've been paying me for probably 10 years in some way, shape, or form as an adjunct or something else. So, but the externship side for me has been, it's been really fun, to be honest, to work with the academic side of things a bit and be involved with that. It was a strategic decision. One of our assistant deans was running the program, and it came to me. It wasn't really my decision or choice. I'm really glad and I'm fortunate that it worked out that way. And we can talk more about that. Just we were talking, you know, how do you collaborate with career services, and my answer to that is yes.
Yes, you do this.
Well,
What do you think?
so-
I-
Right?
He's really easy to work with.
It's true. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
close are you guys geographically?
Oh, what, 6-7 miles?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
Minneapolis, we're in
Minneapolis.
St. Paul, it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
and the U
Yeah.
is also within
Minneapolis.
6-7 miles,
Right.
so the three of us are very close together.
And then Minnesota, University of Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
So do you have a consortium of externships called?
We do.
Just
We
started
just
it.
started it while we're here, Mace.
Yeah. The Minnesota
We haven't
Career-
informed the U yet, but they'll go along, we're confident.
There you
Oh,
go.
I like that.
We've made a few decisions for them.
That's great.
Mace or Mail or?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mace for the moment. I'd like to come up with something that's funnier than Mace, but
It sounds
Feel less-
tough, I know.
Let's
we could,
knock
oh,
you
we could
out.
make a logo with a
We-
little Mace on it.
There you
I
go.
like
All
it.
right, let's see
It's
where.
been kind of interesting, I think, with being here in the last couple of days, too, because I think when we first started talking, we, you know, we have all sorts of different ways of dealing with externships in our schools, and it's been surprising anyways for me to come here and see that other people are doing similar things, even more kind of integrated things, which I thought was really cool, so
Yeah.
that's been kind of a good learning experience.
What are we doing next?
Yeah, I've
Let's do
learned-
both.
Oh, no, I think it's our overview. Nope. Yes, it is. Agenda, we have a survey. Then we're gonna tell you more about our programs, and then we're gonna have us break into small groups. After which, we'll do the all-important debrief. For those of you watching on tape, hope you're enjoying. Okay, survey. I guess I'll go to the next one.
Super.
Okay, so you pick the letter that corresponds to your response and enter it. Super excited about this.
I'm not sure which one is the answer, so.
Why aren't you director? Who keeps saying staff?
That's me.
Are you director?
Well, I'm kind of both.
Okay.
I don't have a director title, so
Oh, okay.
But you're functionally.
functionally directing, yeah.
Yeah, right. Nobody else does it.
Like, just think about it.
Oh, is that our response? Okay, so who's what?
There's an anonymous poll.
I know. You don't have to answer.
So I'm an externship director, but I was having a hard time between that and other externship faculty.
Yeah.
I have a faculty title.
Yes,
um,
right.
Yeah, we weren't sure.
Yeah.
Where are you, Meg?
I'm at Kansas City, so
Oh.
University of Missouri, Kansas
Yeah,
City.
yeah, okay,
Affectionately UMKC.
yes.
I've learned probably too much this weekend, to be honest, but one thing that has been reaffirming to me is learning that there are so many different ways that these programs are run, and so many different people involved, and
Yeah,
it makes me feel better about myself on some level, so that's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
and you, Kendall?
I am externship director, clinical faculty.
Is that all?
I used to be until this semester the director of academic success.
Okay, you're out?
Two, that's
I'm out.
Somebody's,
Yes, we've hired somebody and we're in the process of transition and I couldn't be happier.
I'm thrilled for you, that's awesome.
That's really good.
Okay. How integrated are career services?
Could you please define what you mean by integrated?
You figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. What's your definition?
We'll talk about it when we get done.
Yeah,
Or maybe I'll
none
change
of
it.
this
Can I
is,
change it?
yes, you can change it,
Okay.
but it might add it, that's one of the fun things about not knowing how to say
It's
this.
in it, register me in. There we go.
It's slow, but, okay, I'm gonna say, let's see. No, wait a minute, there. Who said someone, is that you?
It's between not at all and somewhat. We
Yeah.
communicate a lot, but there's no crossover. You know?
Yeah, yep. I think that's fair, and I would call us moderately to substantially,
Yeah,
but maybe
that's what
only
I said.
substantially relative to.
Well, when you get to
Overall,
describing things,
we'll see.
that's where I toggle between B and C.
Yeah,
And we really know each other.
Yeah.
They know me more than I know them,
yeah,
or what they do. I mean, I actually know them.
yeah.
We have
Otherwise.
lunch, you know, so I know them.
Okay, here's the next one. Dean said externships would be run out of career services.
Hi there.
Hi.
Log in.
So we're doing,
morning.
have you ever done these poll everywhere things?
Oh, no, but I'll get my act together right now, I promise.
Sorry.
We're all in such good spirits that,
Yeah.
It's so,
Okay.
it's so
Okay.
early, and the time change, so my wife called me this morning, my mom called me this morning.
Make sure
everybody
you're,
called
nobody called me this
Yes,
morning, but
still
it wouldn't have
up.
mattered because I wouldn't have been on time anyway.
So the instructions are up there at the top.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to hold y'all up.
You're
We're fine.
man,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Don't
one
click
thing.
the link. Once you get in, don't click the link, just, all you have to do is text the letters.
Text the letter that
Okay.
you want to.
Responsive.
Okay.
I haven't decided where, I think I'm gonna say, we're gonna move it all together in.
That would be a terrible idea.
I'm
You
ready
said it
for
would be run out of the career
Services office.
Yeah.
So they,
Oh, well, it doesn't actually make any comment on, is there still faculty role?
Right, is it with the current staffing of the Career Services Office?
So
Yeah,
these are,
the career
some of it
services-
is how you interpret it.
Yes,
Just to get the resources that you need.
I would assume though
Oh,
that
shucks.
whoever's ever in charge of
I
career
keep
services would be in charge
texting,
of it. What?
Alex.
Oh.
Just texted me.
I'm just setting on the poll, did I do, I was on the poll, did I do it?
That's right,
Yeah, you
that's
did
right.
that.
All right, I haven't had any coffee yet, after a few
However,
sips, I'll
you did
let
it.
you go in directions.
He's gonna wonder what's
Strongly oppose. Did you say,
I strongly endorse it.
Oh.
And I thought this was anonymous.
I'm sorry, I just thought
Not anymore, there's 6 of us here, not gonna be that hard.
Will you tell us who you are?
I'm Maida Copeland from Mississippi College Law School in Jackson.
Nice.
Hi there.
Hi, Denise Roy of Mitchell Hamlin.
Leanne Few, Mitchell Hamlin.
Thank y'all for doing this so well.
Adam Brown, St. Thomas.
Yeah. Okay, so, interesting, good array. We can talk, I think.
Yeah, well done.
How important is the goal of helping students? Let me say.
Oh, look at that.
We set?
Uh-huh.
No,
No? Need to think about it?
no, I
Not important, awesome. That's perfect. Athletes to talk
That
about.
wasn't mine.
That was me.
I was guessing.
Yeah.
So, help students lining up own placement options. I don't know what to say.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the same because in our classes they don't, but most of them are.
It's really hard questions because there's so many nuances.
Yeah.
I know,
It's hard
but-
to just kind of answer them.
So, yeah.
It's fun to think
Well,
about these things.
Who's
Yeah.
never?
Me. They
They don't
don't
mind.
set them up on their own. They apply through me
Yeah,
to a set of approved questions.
And then you-
right.
They don't ever bring their own suggestions.
That's why we're,
They
yeah,
don't.
they set them up with you.
We do, I'd say 50-50,
Oh,
honestly.
even though they have to take that class.
They do have a classroom
Yeah,
that's required.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll talk more about the programs.
Okay, fine. This is the last one.
Okay.
So, career services, do they help with externship placements?
That's what I like about it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Good.
That'll just give us, we're just curious.
So we thought we'd
Pretty
spend,
good discussion.
yeah,
Yeah.
we thought we'd spend a little bit of time just talking about our programs and then, sort of explaining how we do it and the different kinds of integration that we have and then hear from you guys. We've got some questions that we can kind of cover at the end, maybe in this
In our
small group.
slum.
That sounds good. So, again, I'm with Mitchell Hamlin and Denise and I are there together and we have an externship program and a residency program, which is kind of a more intensive externship. They're taking
Full-time.
full-time, typically in their last year, summer, fall, and spring semester, they can do on-site work experiences for 8 to 14 credits in that, in the residency program. To offer the questions that we just got done talking about, we have students that come and ask us to help them find placements, but we actually have a lot of students that come and bring their own suggestions as well. So one of the unique things about our school is that we have all of these different enrollment options. So we have students that are on campus with us that live in Minnesota and they just as traditional law students come to campus and are in our full-time day program. We have students in our evening program who typically work full-time during the day. We have a weekend program and those students largely are from the kind of outstate Minnesota, Wisconsin area and they come in on the weekend to go to school. And then we have our hybrid EJD program. I won't sort of worried about distinguishing between the two right now, but suffice to say, those are people that are around the country, and they come, we have a variance from the ABA that allows them to come to school 50% online and 50% in person. So the way that's structured, they do, over the course of a 13-week semester, they do most of sort of the time span online in weekly modules, and then they come to campus for 1 or 2 really intensive weeks. So they'll show up for their capstone week, which is at the end of the semester, and they will be there from Sunday at lunch until the following Saturday at dinner. And it's all day, every day, super intensive, and it's great. It's a really interesting program. They do a lot of simulation work, and they have really. We launched the program in January 2015, and have been really impressed with the kind of students that it draws. The average age of students in that program is 40. I think the oldest student that we have in that program now is 73. Which is
He's not really doing a career.
No.
Just wants to know more.
Yeah, but he considers fun.
That's right. We
That was
always
my
sort of-
in-laws, they took 2 courses every semester.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's not gonna
Yep.
help your job placement numbers.
I know. But it's awfully.
So how many,
He's
We're talking.
having a good time, so
how
that's
many
good.
students altogether in there?
So we have about 1,200 students in just shy of 1,200 in the school altogether. So, and our ratio has changed a fair amount. You know, there was a time where we were very much, primarily an on-campus school, similar to St. Thomas in the U. And actually this year, for the first time, our first-year incoming class is about evenly split between our, what we call our blended learning options, our students that are partially online, partially in person, and those that are full-time online. So it's changed a lot about how we have to kind of figure out how to work with them, and you know, sort of sitting where I sit on the faculty side and on the career services side, changed kind of how we have to work with them from a counseling perspective. It's a very different conversation with our second career, third career, 73-year-old hybrid student, you know, about how to kind of prepare themselves for the next step. They don't need us to tell them how to do a resume. They have done more resumes than most of the counselors in our office probably in their lifetime. So, what's very important to them is to figure out how to get connected to their communities and to connect with alums or find work experiences that work with their schedules, because most of them, the reason they're in the hybrid program is they can't just pick their lives up because they're business owners or they're doctors. They are,
They have a military spouse.
Yep, exactly.
Or they're in rural areas.
Yep.
And that's a big part of it.
Right. So the career services office, the role that they kind of play in the externships, the career services offices are assigned to all of the career services counselors are assigned to all of the students on campus. So every student has a counselor that is theirs for kind of the duration, regardless of what program they're in. And so with all students, we do counseling that includes, it's not just limited to, but includes what kind of classes might they be interested in, or connecting to the bar associations, but also what kind of experiences, work experiences are they interested in, externships, residencies, that kind of thing. With our hybrid students, it's a little bit more integrated with respect to the externships. The hybrid students are, because of the volume and sort of where they are around the country, we need to provide sort of a different level of support to them in terms of identifying these placements. A lot of the placements almost all of the placements are brand new. It's not like our in-residence program where we're using the same placements that have been used for a long time. So the career services staff is involved with working with the students and trying to figure out what it is that they want to do, what kind of placements are in their area that might be a good fit for them, helping to connect them to alums, and then actually vetting the sites. And so yep.
It does academic advising, experiential advising, and career advising.
Yeah.
And academic stuff is, you guys are the principal place for it? Or you
No,
share
we're
those
not the-
responsibilities with somebody else?
We share the responsibilities with the faculty. The academic advising who tends to be kind of referring them out to the appropriate faculty member. We have assigned academic advisors for students that come into their first year, but in their second and their third year, they don't necessarily maintain those academic advisors
Right,
as their interests change.
yeah.
And so what the career council, the role that they kind of play is to help sort of suss out what, their interests are
Right,
and
so
then
thinking about
point them.
integration.
Yep,
Right, right.
yeah.
So, how many people do you have in your career services office?
We have 7. So we
Oh.
have 7
Two.
full-time.
Yeah.
Plus
Good.
me, yeah.
How many people are assigned into each counselor?
But we have 5 counselors, and each counselor has a caseload of about 200 students.
So
So it's still a pretty big ratio, but it's very different. I mean, 2 years ago, the office did not look that way. This is a product of the 2 schools coming together, the new dean saying, this is a huge priority for us. It's also a product of just the fact that the hybrid program kind of started around the same time, and we knew we wanted to offer those students externships, and there had to be sort of a mechanism for
Yeah.
helping them do that. So it's a relatively large staff, but we also have a large student body,
Yeah.
and some interesting challenges.
But it really, it reflects that strategic, whatever,
Yeah.
mission-driven decision to integrate career services and academics more.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, they need to do support. And I would add that we also are trying to encourage students to do full-time residencies for the end of law school. And so that's another reason why
Yeah.
there's staffing in that office.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it all kind of it was a very intentional choice by the dean to kind of tie the career and the curriculum together. And that was, in talking to folks kind of around here the last couple of days, I'm starting to realize that my path maybe to get to career services is a little bit different than other folks. And, some people have started in career services and moved into externship teaching, and I have gone the other direction. I am still on the faculty and I teach a business externship, but I have moved, kind of put my foot in the career services
Right.
camp from the faculty side of it instead of going the other way. And that was very intentional to get sort of a better kind of connection between what's happening in the classroom and what's happening with the CSO. So.
Advantages and disadvantages?
So I think the advantages are, I think our students are getting a better sort of integrated experience with, sort of among dealing with all of us, and Denise will talk a little bit about kind of what her role is as externship director and how we kind of work together. But I feel like we have a fair amount of the bugs worked out in terms of sort of how the faculty and the career services side work together. And so that's been really good. And I think it's also set up a good framework for, we are still working on this career curriculum piece, and we're looking at ways to insert more professional development, professional identity formation stuff into the curriculum. And I think it has established kind of a platform for doing that and a working relationship between the faculty and the CSO office, which has been great. One of the challenges that I think has kind of surprised me, when I kind of moved over, I thought that we would get more resistance from the faculty on the integration, and it's actually worked out the other way. We get a little bit more resistance from the CSO staff on and I don't know if it's why are the faculty kind of imposing themselves on us? There's a little bit of, we are doing administrative work for faculty-driven externship programs. So that was kind of surprising to me, and that may just be a product of me coming from faculty to sort of lead that. I'm not sure, but that is a challenge that we're still kind of working through.
Well, and I think in part, it's their workload has really changed.
Yes.
Things have been added, not necessarily at all subtracted.
Yep.
So we've added staff, but still for people who are used to working in that environment, they're doing things that they wouldn't have expected to do. And part of the challenge that we're
Are
still
they all
working.
lawyers?
Yes,
We have
that's really important
Yes.
for us.
So
Yeah.
I was at a different school in the professional development office, assistant dean, and it was supernatural to me that when I was talking to students, I wanted to say, what courses have you taken, do you have a theory on,
Yeah.
how
Right.
you're choosing, and other counselors just like, we're not, even though they're all lawyers,
Yeah.
we're just not, like, they didn't want to go that way. that, so it's not like they said, like, Meg, I won't do that, but it wasn't, you know, a natural embrace,
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
And so I just, you know, every once in a while, you think you're the typical, and then you realize, no, it turns out people are different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, it's just,
Yes.
you know, regularly you realize you
That's
need
what
some
I
humility, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know.
It's true, and I can see that sort of in our staff. We have a certain segment of the staff that were there under kind of the old career services guard, right? And they weren't necessarily in career services, but they were part of the school at that time. And so they have a vision that this is the box that career services plays in. And as we've added staff, we've hired very differently. We've hired people that sort of just kind of naturally sort of looked at that role as a little bit more integrated. And now it's just a matter of kind of moving folks, you know, sort of all together in the same direction, so.
Yeah.
What would you add?
So, well, I think my first reaction to the idea of doing more integration was, I wouldn't say resistant, but I was having a hard time understanding how it would work. And I've been realizing that that's because I'm a tax person, so I do a lot of work with the tax students. And I saw it as a faculty role to be advising even on career stuff, because I felt more in it. I knew the community, I know what the opportunities are. So partly, and we also have this other academic advising arm.
Right.
So envisioning how we were gonna coordinate and work together was hard. Just, and we're still working through that, but I think it's feeling pretty good. Aside from that though, I really loved it, because I love working with Leanne, but also because my thinking about how students work through law school and it's so much been about vocation, that I don't see career path and academic path as any separate in any way. So the fact that I was doing that integrated counseling is consistent with the organization that we now have at the school. And so and part of what I'm trying to do is help with career services staff to help them understand why this is important and why it's, you know, really important to the mission. It's not administrative. It's not just filling out forms and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of the gaps that we, I think, have had in a portion of the externship program, and still for our in-resident students, it still, I think, lives a little bit there. For our in-resident students, a lot of our externships are run by adjunct faculty, and the adjunct faculty kind of own those placements, they own those relationships, and what we have tried to be very conscious of, and more so maybe on the career services side with the hybrid and the residency program, is now how do we sort of not look at our placements as necessarily job opportunities when students are getting placed, but understand that there's a potential employer relations aspect to it.
Right.
That is a really critical part of the career services office, and is another really good reason to have that collaboration between the two, so.
It is, but it's another tricky thing.
Yes.
Because we have had, so we have everything that you can imagine for externships. We have externship courses. We have a lot of independent externships. We have general externship courses for the hybrid students. For on-campus students, the courses are more specialized. PD's office, you know, government agency, whatever. And then we have the full-time residencies, and we have courses for that, and we have independent residencies. So, yeah.
Any for-profit placements?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we decided
Pretty much
to,
everywhere, yeah.
yeah, we decided to go ahead with allowing credit for paid externships. Not all students who work in the for-profit sector are paid, but it has increased the proportion that are.
So if an organization contacts, like, at my office, I get calls all the time from lawyers in the private
Yeah.
sector who call and say, I want a free student.
Right.
And I'll say, well, we don't offer labor like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I explain how my class goes, and I say, I can connect you to career services, they can talk to you about if you want to have a paid position. But when people call career services about a paid position, do you now give them the option to do credit? I guess it doesn't matter because they're paid. Do you let them take the student for free, or do you require them to pay, or what do you do?
Yeah, so we counsel the employers on that. I mean, largely where any of the above will go, right? But if they call us and they're kind of on the fence about it, we try to counsel them in the direction of paid, obviously. my experience has been that particularly in the private sector, they want choice, right? And so one of the things I will say to them is, if you want choice, you need to consider paying, because if you get into our externship program, in that, students are getting placed, you're not necessarily getting the choice to interview. And I don't know that we
Can be,
necessarily
but we don't.
have hard and fast rule
Yeah.
about it, but that's kind of how.
But that's all the more
we
reason that you've really got to integrate career
Yeah.
services in,
Yeah.
because you have to be able to, at least your office has to have that initial discussion with them.
Yes.
But it goes the other way too, and I know we've talked about this, that we'll have externship placement sites that start, now that they can, start thinking maybe we should pay in order to attract more students or better students.
Yeah.
We have
So it
that too.
actually
and then-
comes in
Yeah.
either
We have a, we
Yeah.
have a robust compliance and business with individual externships for each of those areas. And there are employers that would not take externs before because of Fair Labor Standards concerns. So they are now paying them, sometimes a paltry sum, but enough to say that, hey, we are
Yeah.
complying with Fair Labor Standards we were concerned about, but it opens doors for us that weren't there. Honestly, most of our paid externs that we're seeing are in the public interest externship. It's someone working with the county attorney or
Yeah.
public
Oh,
defender or
government.
something like
Yeah.
that.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, not
I find
nonprofits.
that-
Well, there are some nonprofits too, though, because people that are already working at different places that realize, oh, this is an option now too. So we are, honestly, the most paid externs we have are in the public interest externship.
That's
So,
interesting.
surprise.
Yeah, and it's, this is an aside, so the whole paid externship thing is another sort of dynamic that's leading toward it making more sense to collaborate, for sure. But on the nonprofit side, we're seeing a little bit of efforts to come up with funding for nonprofit placements. Help me, what's the?
Oh,
the-
Jam.
No, the organization that collects money from, collects money from employees and gives it to charities.
United Way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Those
yeah,
people.
Yeah.
They've, in our area, they've added a legal assistance mission.
Yes.
And so they are actually setting up fellowships for
Oh,
students to work and with their partners, which are all legal aid offices,
Yeah.
so that they can be paid to work in legal aid
Wow.
offices.
Or things like fellowships and scholarships and things like that are now, you can look into including those in the externship. So it does open doors that,
crazy accommodate.
yeah, so.
Do you want to talk about your
Should I
search?
start?
Sure.
Yeah, so, just fair, or full disclosure here, my defense mechanism in public speaking is just to turn bright red. I'm not having an attack, this is just me. So, there you
Thank you
go.
for that.
You're welcome, yeah, I don't want everybody to be too concerned.
Helpful to know.
So we have about 350 to 400 students at our school at any given time. We have 7 different externship courses available. And I would say we've got 50 to 60 a semester is what I've been seeing. So by my Minnesota Public High School math, that's about 1/5 of our student body in an externship at any time, which is a little overwhelming when I started thinking about that. So my role, we have, you guys have a hybrid program. I
Yeah.
think I am sort of a hybrid myself. We have 3 people in our career services office, the director, I am the assistant director, and then we have a coordinator who handles most of our technical technology side. So I provide career services and professional development support for half of our student body. I work with almost all alumni that come back to the office. I teach in our mentor externship program, which is an entirely different silo that I could talk for an hour about, and I won't get into that.
Oh, right, your school has, every student has a mentor.
Every student has a mentor each year, so that is,
Yeah.
if we have 400 students, we have 400 mentors, which is a lawyer or judge or someone else. And that has a classroom component, and I teach that, which is a lot of fun. So that's students from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all practice areas, all thrown into my class. Our courses, which I supervise, we have 7 different professors, so they're all adjuncts. But we have, I'm trying to do this in alphabetical order, but I'll screw it up. Business, compliance, public interest, misdemeanor defense, which is really public defenders, and so those are certified student attorneys. That one's graded, all the others are pass-fail. And then we have, did I say compliance? Judicial, we have judicial externship. And then we have 2 advanced offerings. So there's a general advanced externship, which is students continuing in a similar placement or the same placement but moving on to more duties and things like that. And then there's an advanced misdemeanor externship, and those students, it's 2 or 3 a semester, and they actually help teach the classroom portion, which is really, so that's our structure in a nutshell. Questions?
Okay, so I've always wondered about this. So the mentor externship program, is that just like, that's a mandatory program for all students in their first year?
It's all 3 years.
Now, do they get credit for it?
They get credit the second and third year because there's a classroom component attached to it. So it's 1 credit for the second and third year. They get 0 credits during the first year. It's a half credit each semester for the second and third year.
Okay,
It's a little complicated, but it
Okay.
works.
so do you find that the mentor externship experience kind of increases student interest in doing a
Full-fledged
formal
externship, yeah.
externship?
It depends.
Or decreases, or doesn't have any effect?
That's a good question.
Honestly, I'm not sure it has any effect because the way we have them set up is they are completely different structures, right? They're completely different courses, completely different credits, things like that. I love the mentor program. It forces people off campus and it forces them to form 3 different professional relationships, whether they want to or not. Some students are better at it than others, but that's the classroom component and where that comes in. And our externships have always had a classroom component. We don't have private placements. So the mentor externship allows you, hey, I want to go to a big firm. We can pair someone with a big firm placement. We have a mentor externship director, and she and I work closely together. One, because I teach a class in the program, but also because we have some overlapping things that come up. They do not allow any kind of payment in that program. There's no paid mentor relationship, so there's that. I don't know. I'm not. What other questions do you have?
That was, it's just I'm looking at trying to develop something that seems to be similar to your mentor externship for foreign trained LLM
Oh,
students.
cool. All of our LLMs have mentors as well.
Yeah, and I
So-
saw that, and that just seems like a better option than what I offer for regular externships, and so that, and just generally, I'm starting to think more about holistic advisement in our school.
Sure.
And so one of the questions that I've always kind of had in looking at your program, which is obviously unique, is that question of, do students find it duplicative? Is it actually like going to increase the thirst for the experiential, or is it going to decrease it? So that's all.
Well, in the mentor relationship or the work, are they doing work?
So some of them will do work here and there. So, they can get credit for doing research memos and things like that. And if the mentor takes the time to debrief it with
Right.
them, it's fantastic. But it's things that we hope our externship supervisors are doing as well, placement supervisors. And the program's been around long enough now, and we have enough people that have been through it that, it's really successful. And if the students take advantage of it, it's fantastic.
I'm just trying to see, related to Kendall's question, I think, is it itself an externship experience of sorts such that it might satisfy somebody who's looking for that? Or,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
it is.
so
It
you can
is.
imagine students not needing or not feeling pushed to add
Right.
another externship
Sure.
experience.
Yeah, and it does count, so it's two experiential credits for them as well, because they are observing, they're doing all kinds of things, talking to attorneys and, sitting in on client meetings and things
Yeah.
like that. So it's very practical and it's great. I went through the program, I graduated in 2006, and so I was the third graduating class, so we were kind of the guinea pigs, but I loved it, and I was good at taking advantage of the program, so that's part of what I teach my students is how to do that.
Right.
Is, hey, and so as a professor in that program, I also have 3 meetings a year with the students that I have in my section. Each teacher in the section, each teacher meets with their students 3 times a year. So those touch points are there, and I say, what are you interested in doing? What haven't you done yet in your career? Have you been able to write something like this? Because I know your mentor does this. See if you can I recommend, hey, take a MOOC project, right? Something that they've already done, or one of their associates has already done for them. Take that project on and try it, see how you do. They'll give you feedback, that kind of thing. And that takes, so they have to do about 30 hours of field work with their mentor to get their credit over the course of the year. So,
Okay,
you know, one good project and, you know, that experience could take care of all their hours for the year, but it's such a great thing. And, you know, it is a teaching role for the mentors too, so we explain that. But, so I want to talk a little more about externships though, because they are different things on some level, but they're very similar. So I thought, since I am strictly career services, which I learned yesterday is 4% of people involved with whatever that survey was that I saw in the morning. So I think I am somewhat,
Well, no, you know, part of it is skewed, who takes the conference.
well,
Yeah.
that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
So
I think there's
yeah.
more.
I'm glad to be here, by the way, thanks for having me, this is exciting for me. But so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the benefits of working with me, and I think career services are all set up differently, obviously, but you know, I have so many touch points with students. I have a forced relationship with half of them, whether they want me or not, because I am their counselor. But I have so many different things that I do. I mean, I teach, you know, I coach a moot court and all these different things. I have so many touch points with students. And our goal in our office for career services is to form relationships with people, because we can serve them better if we know who they are and what they're interested in doing. And then when an employer says, hey, I need a clerk, or I need an attorney or something like that, I got a person for you, right? Or I've got a few people, I'll send you their resumes or whatever it is. And, you know, we'll post, but I'm also gonna make sure these people send you their resume, because I just talked to them, I know them when we do this. One of my functions is employer relations. So I am out talking to employers all the time, and I sell the externship program to them. I sell the externship program to our students. We have 3 workshops a year where we get in front of each first year student, and we talk to them about how to use the phone, how to leave what should your outgoing voicemail sound like on your phone. Please check your voicemails. But a part of that is, hey, I'm Adam, and I also manage our externship program. What's an externship? Let me tell you, right? So when I took over, and I'm not sure if this is because I took over or not, I like to think it's a happy coincidence, or maybe more than a happy
Take
coincidence.
credit.
So when I started, we hadn't had a public interest externship for 2 semesters.
Huh?
Yeah, we didn't have enough students enroll in the course. And now that one has become one of our more popular. Part of it, like I said, is we allow paid externships, which brings in county attorney positions and things like that. But you know, so we'll get 3 or 4 students a semester in that role. But part of it for me is, as I sit down with somebody and say, I really want to get into nonprofit, but they don't pay me. They don't pay you, but let's figure out how you can get in there another way and get 3 credits for the public interest, and then continue on and advance your role and get 3 more credits for an advanced externship. And now they've done 2 semesters. So because I'm in front of students and talking to them, that's, you know, I think when I took over too, most of our placements were given by the schools, so given by the professors in each class. We're about 50-50 now, because I'm teaching the students to use this to their advantage and to use it as a value add when they're reaching out to different people, right? Hey, I'd love to have coffee with you. Great. During that coffee meeting, let's talk about what I can actually do to help. And it's been really great. So it's been a lot of fun, and I tell the employers that this is, so I want a free student. Fair enough. You have some responsibilities, right? So yesterday somebody said practice plus pedagogy, which is, pedagogy is not a part of my vernacular.
I'm not sure many
However
lawyers
that
are
is.
using it on a daily
Vernacular
basis.
is a big word, and I think wordy stuff. So I'm gonna use that now. Let's practice plus pedagogy.
Great, it
So-
makes you sound really.
Sounds really smart.
Yeah.
So SMRT, smart. But I want to talk to each of you quickly here about what I think are the benefits of externships that you can offer to career services. So that sitting here thinking about this week, I mean, I've learned that job placement program is we don't say job placement program, but what this is an experience program, right? So we talk a lot. During the life cycle of a law student, right? The first year, we're talking to people that are on the ball, the go-getters. They're going to do well in school. They get great jobs over the summer and through us, and we don't see them a whole lot after that, right? Sometimes they'll come in, if people come in and talk to me about all kinds of crazy stuff. Why did you come to me? I'm glad you're here. Let's send you to the right person, or I have to mandatorily report this before you tell me. But, so, we deal with the people at the bottom half of the class during the 2nd and 3rd years primarily, because they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, things like that. So what externships offers is experience, right? It offers a really great experience on a resume. It offers the ability to make some connections, start to build some professional experience, start to do some work you put together in a writing sample, all these different things. So externships offer real experience. From our perspective, when we tell the students this during our first workshop, experience is experience. It doesn't matter if it's volunteering or paid or whatever. We don't care where you are or what you're doing, just go do something. And if you want to do bankruptcy and you can only get a job in workers' compensation defense, who cares? Do it, because you're going to gain those transferable skills. Externships are a bonus because not only are they gaining the transferable skills and getting out and meeting people, and things, but they also have a teacher going back through all these things with them. That's fantastic. And from a career services perspective, to know that there's that element of some oversight and control, that is so fantastic for people in that kind of a role. The other thing that you offer is more touch points with students. So we are trying to find ways to connect with certain people. If they're taking an externship, and I know that they're there, and they've got a professor now that they can use maybe as a reference or something like that, because that's something that's a real challenge for people that are maybe the bottom half of the class. Oh, I bombed towards, I can't get a reference. Well, how'd you do in your externship? Oh, it's great experience. Let's talk to that professor, right? I talked about writing samples, examples, connections. Let's see. You can offer also new connections to employers that are out there. You may have placements at some, different things that your career assistant doesn't have a connection with, or something like that, vice versa. So those are a few of the things that I thought are really important. But that training side of things and that oversight is something that we don't always have access to. Somebody said something about being in a box. I don't let people put me in a box. I don't let employers just, if I hear bad things and I have any kind of connection whatsoever, I will talk to whoever is over there. We'll go through some feedback that I'm getting from students. But yeah, so that was a lot. That was kind of fast.
That's good.
Probably good. I'm starting to glaze over, so.
How do you guys do it on your side? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Well, I do want to share just a little bit more detail of how we collaborate.
Yes.
And plus, we have a handout that we must distribute because we have it. So one of the ways in which we collaborate is that we have a common email address called externship@mitchellhamlin.edu. And so all emails externship related come in. This isn't about that yet, but all of the emails come in and then we have somebody who routes them. And sometimes they go to career services, sometimes they come to me, sometimes they go, some other place. But that's allowed us to give students a single place to go whenever they have anything externship related, and it also allows us to coordinate without sending students around in circles trying to,
Right.
so that's, I think, has been really great. The other thing that and I think the other thing we've done, because we've had to create our hybrid externships and figure out how to run externships out around the country, which necessitated lots of things, but we had a team that included externships, the hybrid program staff, and career services. And so that effort dovetailed with a desire to have more institutional, have our relationship with potential employers and placement sites be more regularized, or something that the school owns as opposed to individual faculty members. And so having career services made a lot of sense as the initial touch point for externships and career services, which is why we have them do the vetting, which is why they want to do the vetting.
Right.
Leanne does, her staff. But so they want to do the vetting because they want to maintain relationships with all these potential employers. As a school, we want to have consistent and positive connections and contacts with our externship placements as well as our potential employers and so on. So it's giving us a way to, regularize that, and along with that, then we're going to be doing a better job of collecting data about who's been where and when and so on. So by having career services be the first touch point, that's part of the way that we're kind of institutionalizing the relationship. And the way we do this is the students have to submit a proposal for an externship. We career services will help them if they don't have ideas. We've been pretty pleased with how effective the students in all sorts of communities have been at finding their own placements. It's been not as hard, not requiring quite as much effort. Sometimes it's really hard. Yes, ma'am?
Is it required that they do an externship?
Nope.
But it is built into their program,
Yeah.
so it's strongly recommended
It's
as
just,
part of their.
so one of the things on the,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing kind of a hybrid where I have, right now, the culture in Atlanta is that we manage the application process and then we send out resumes and stuff to to an approved list,
Right.
right? And I do a site visit on the front end and vet the site on,
Yeah.
before they're on the approved list, right? But invariably, somebody will come and say, I wanna do X, Y, and Z, and it sounds like a good thing, and
Yeah.
it's like, I don't have time that semester to be going out and doing the site visit
Right.
and vetting it. Like, for purposes of renewed externship, relationship
Yeah.
every semester, because that's what they have to agree to do.
Yep.
But my concern has always been, like, if I were to convert it to a different system, that students wouldn't actually, they just wouldn't take the initiative to go and find their own.
Well, I think that is a culture change, and you just have to be patient.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but I think it's well worth
Yeah.
moving.
So that happened inadvertently at my school because for 2 years, I had always done what you did. I mean, I placed everybody, I was very controlling in it. And then when admissions was added to my role, I could not do that anymore. Oh, yeah, and so,
Yeah.
I just basically had the list and told students, apply, tell me where you're going, I'll see you in class the first day.
Yeah.
And, if you wanna go somewhere else, give me a solid 6 weeks lead time so I can get it approved. And my enrollment in the program dropped off about 60%. I mean, I'm down to
Yeah.
40 or 50
Yeah.
students now, and I used to be at 100, maybe
Yeah.
40 is where I am now. And so, they did not take the initiative, and a lot of them, they not at all.
well, so I've had the opposite experience, because, all the students come in and say, so what's my job, right? They don't quite get how all this works. I can't give you a job, because I would get fired if I did. So what we do is, I market it as, you go find whatever you want, and discuss the benefits of the program. I have a guide that I put together, I probably should have brought that, I wasn't thinking. So I have a guide that I put together for potential placements that outlines the program, outlines the expectations for both parties to some extent. It's pretty basic. Then I talk to the potential placement, 10-minute, 15-minute phone call, and I make clear, this has to be a substantial educational experience. You are a teacher for all intents and purposes. And then each adjunct goes through and meets with the student, talks about the work activities you're gonna be doing, and speaks with the placement before the semester starts as well. So it's a somewhat extensive vetting process, but it hasn't been that bad, and it's conversations that I wanna have anyway. And you guys
Yeah.
mentioned that, right? And you wanna form these relationships. Sometimes we say no, and sometimes the placement just turns out to be, it just doesn't work as well, but that's more a function of, the students not driving it as well as they can, I think, than anything else, from what I've seen.
Well, I mean, the culture, so I think it would probably require, I'm gonna have to do a faculty proposal to actually change this, because I had to do a faculty proposal to change it to how I currently do it, right? So like, students still have to take the initiative, and I don't place them in, I don't do the placement. I just
Right.
get them in the process and coordinate the application. So like, this is where you drop it, you need to do a statement of interest, resume, whatever, and then send them off, and then
And it's up to the host office to choose,
to
I
interview,
want Jane
and
that
then
job.
they send offers through me, so I can make sure that I can maximize placement, right? If we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
several
yeah.
different choices, but anyway, it used to be that the faculty used to approve every externship placement.
Right, that's the
That's
part,
okay.
that's the
That's
part
what
of the
our
change,
culture
right?
Well, they don't do that anymore, now they, like,
Trust
several
me.
years ago, I said, this is crazy making, like, you've approved every single one I've brought you for the past 2 years, like, can you just give me carte blanche to, like, use my judgment,
Right.
that this will be a good placement, and they said, okay. But that's going from literally approving every single placement to this,
Letting the students.
it is going to be, something that.
But you've already
potentially-
you've already used the exception, you just have to let that happen to more.
Have you, yeah.
And it's a professional development opportunity for the students,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Which is the way that I look at it. You know, this is up to you. So if somebody comes and says, well, I'm not getting the right kind of work that I want. Okay, well, let's figure that out, right? This is on you. Welcome to being a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's how this works, and we talk through that. And as long as they come in early enough, it tends to go really well. But we also have the checkpoint with the professors, and they're reviewing the timesheets, they're reviewing the journals or logs, or however each class does it individually. But, you know, it has been great, I think, on our side of things, so.
Probably the biggest source of satisfaction for me is working with students who have found an opportunity that they want to pursue, that they wouldn't be able to pursue if they were limited to pre-approved
Yeah.
placements. I mean, it's really exciting and very satisfying because they tend to be,
Especially in
Passionate.
a
Yeah.
good-sized city, right, where there are,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, because
I mean, I'm
the
very
school
inclined
can't know
to
them
shift
all.
this direction because I have to do some proposals about a program, so I'm gonna throw this in.
yeah.
But I did have a question. Do you have a part-time program, like a part-time or evening-only program?
We have a part-time program. We don't have many students in it. We do have a robust compliance program. There's an LLM, there's also a master's degree. So our target audience for that program is national. So we are moving many of our classes to online. So we're in that process right now, which has been interesting, fun. We were able to use that. So I have a student this summer. He's a first-year student. He wants to live in Texas. We have some people in Texas, not a lot. In the area he wanted to go, we weren't finding that many people. We connected with a couple, but I said, here's what I think you should do. He wanted to work in corrections and law enforcement. I said, where do you want to work? And he gave me a few options. I said, call them, talk about externships. Here's my guide that I send out to placement. He came in a couple weeks later. He says, well, I've got a volunteer position for half the summer, and then I've got an externship placement. So 20 hours a week to be volunteering, the other 20 is going to be externing.
Yeah.
So
But I guess my question is, because you have a strict this weekend only and evening only, and we have,
Well, it isn't, none of it's only,
They
it's
can
all,
move between.
it's just some of their constraints. It's actually one,
okay,
they can take any
Well-
course in any, yeah.
okay, so that's how ours is. So like,
Yeah.
they may start out in full-time, or the part-time
Exactly.
evening program and then shift to full-time, but
Yeah.
I want to know if you have figured out something in your collaboration,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
To help facilitate placements
for part-time students.
for part-time students.
It's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
it's really hard.
It is.
So the
But that's
thing,
all.
Well, because you
various
can't
students.
Yeah.
That's the whole
change
thing.
the business schedule in a
Right,
week.
it's
It
9 to 5.
really
right,
is like
right.
8 to
Yeah.
6 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
not that much work on the
Yeah.
weekends.
Our students have been really creative in sort of adjusting, the hybrid students, and I don't know, I think we're expecting 50 hybrid students to
Yeah.
be doing externships
Yeah.
this summer, but they're all adjusting their schedules, but we've also had to be, and Denise can talk more about this, a little bit creative with them in terms of, do you have to be on site for all of your hours, or
Right.
can you do a
can
portion
you
of
take a
it?
day
I've done
off
that,
a
yes.
week?
Right.
Yeah, but we do, you know, the number one thing that's emerged, both with the part-time students and with paid externships, is people who have jobs in appropriate places
Yeah.
wanting to do externships at the place where
I
they work.
know.
Yes.
And you can see that reflected in our forms, the questions about,
Yes.
you know, do you already work there, and what's your role? It's, I think, a good thing on the whole to be able
It's
to
been
allow
super
students
successful at Brookline.
to work, to do an
The general
externship where they're
counsel's office,
working,
Because they were,
because they can't do it otherwise,
Yeah.
number one, and,
well, and their
and because-
bosses are more willing to.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
and they might be
I mean,
looking to
that's-
stay on there
The students who
after.
did it, got work.
All right, so
Right, so-
here's a scenario, hypothetical. Would you, like,
Yeah.
because these are the things that I struggle with. So I just had a student come to me last semester. Staff, administrator, office manager person
Yep.
for a judge.
Yep.
Wants to then extern for the judge. Okay, this
Okay.
is a staff of 3 people.
Right.
Right,
So what are they gonna do different from their?
Exactly.
that's what we make them, there are different ways. The easiest is if they have completely different responsibilities for the externship portion.
I mean, I get, like,
Yeah.
if you were in a big corporation, right?
Yeah,
And you work in and the engineering department, and then you go into the legal, that's completely separate, not your boss and everything, but when it's like a,
No,
So
Well,
it's
it's
like,
not
who's
about-
gonna answer the phones while this person's on their
Exactly.
externship hours? It's still gonna be your extern, and that's not.
Well,
Put
that's-
another judge in the same courthouse?
That'd be
yes, but
better.
that wasn't the
But that's-
question.
Yeah.
No,
That's,
no,
see,
no.
that's a conversation that I have with the potential supervisor, right? So if
Yeah.
you're there, because we have, if somebody's working essentially 30 or 40 hours a week, great, do 20 hours a week of whatever your normal duties are, and then you log in to the externship, and you do the externship duties, you speak with the judge, you add this component of the educational side. Does it work all the time? No,
But if,
but,
but if they were able to do that, they would be able to do an externship. And here's my thing, is that I think that the employer has an incentive to be able to say to to put this person, I mean, not saying that judges are unethical or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Right, yeah.
But I think that they have an incentive to get their person to be able to increase their,
And you know
professional.
what, honestly, if the
Agree.
judge wants to do that, why don't you just do that in someone's responsibility? Why don't you hire a good boss and just do that, right?
Right.
Part of being a good boss.
Why are you gonna make somebody
getting
pay the
people out
school
there
all this
to
money
do
to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but, right, there's this concern that they might just be getting credit for doing their job, that they've already done,
Right.
that's not a lawyer job, that's not stretching them or,
Or
pushing
even
them toward
a little
growth.
small percentage. You know,
But
they
they
could
will.
have like a
But it's still
little
like
research
they're,
assignment on top of their job.
So
You
what
know,
we
it's
do
saying
is they have to
judges-
explain in detail how they're gonna set it up, and we would talk to the
Yeah.
site supervisor about it.
Yeah.
And so, somebody would have to at least represent that they're gonna be doing work that's different. They're gonna be doing law, judicial clerk work instead of just administrative work. And it isn't necessarily a barrier that they're already working full-time. We've had a number of students who, though working full-time, are able to carve out 10 hours a week at their job, doing something different.
And
Their
still
employer
getting
is,
nice classes?
Yeah.
and-
See, but if you can carve out 10 hours a week, what I tell my students is, do that somewhere else, and then the rest of it can be flexible. We'll find you somewhere where you just report one day a week, and the rest of the time is.
That's fine.
so, I tried this.
And this person didn't want to do that.
Mine didn't either, mine didn't either.
it's okay,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll just say, I think that can be true, but sometimes I think that's logistically hard for certain students, or there may be an advantage to having them be in the same place and take on sort of an extra scope of work as it sort of relates to where they want to be when they get done, right? And I have a lot of conversations with students that say, I could sort of take 10 hours to go here, but I have no intention of being there. I want to be here, and I want to demonstrate to them that I can do more. So not my career services hat, but as the faculty member that sometimes supervises a lot of those externships, as Denise said, we have the students lay out the goals very specifically, but then as the faculty member, in that kind of situation, it would be a paid externship. One of the guidelines that we have is we have to go and do an actual in-person site visit for paid externships. And so the faculty person will go and, if it's me, I sit down with the placement and we have that conversation. But I also usually include an academic component in the externship where they have to do some sort of paper of substance that explains that, there's this additional kind of learning as well. So
Yeah.
I think there are tools.
so the faculty supervisor is holding them accountable too.
For that piece of it.
But what I would say, if you don't feel comfortable with it, there's no need to do it. I'm not trying, I'm just saying,
Serious.
I think it's possible for me to get comfortable with it, but that doesn't mean,
It's
that
just once they're placed, right? The reality is, even if they're not getting the experience,
Yeah,
there's nothing you can really, I mean,
That's true.
yeah.
I mean, that's.
Well, that comes
you
up
can,
in
you
all
can
sorts
hound
of
and hound
settings.
and hound, but especially like with a judge,
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're not,
Yeah.
it's
So-
hard enough.
I have an example, so I have a part-time student who came in, so our part-time started a couple of years ago, so it's relatively new at the time. He came in, he was working for one of the large accounting firms in town. He wanted to go into more of a legal role in accounting, he was doing compliance work. I think this was maybe even this fall or maybe last summer. He couldn't go, because I said, well, why don't you carve out some time and go to one of these other companies, which would be great. He couldn't do it because of conflict of
Right,
interest
yeah.
issues, right?
Yeah.
So we started thinking about that, so we passed on that. What he ended up doing is, he did a compliance externship, and ended up working, so he started with a compliance supervisor, different from the person he was with, doing slightly different things, 10 hours a week. And so he would essentially log in and track that time. He ended up working with the general counsel's office, he's going back for a business externship in the future. He said, if I hadn't done this as an externship, I would have continued working in my same role and probably left that company, and now I might even have a shot at general counsel after graduation. Doesn't happen. So, and that was, he and I working closely on, this has to work for my class, my program, and this has to work for you as well, or it's not worth your time, because you don't have time to be screwing around with stuff.
Right.
No, that particular student is kind of a rock star, and he made it work for himself. I don't think that would work for everybody, but I think most of your part-time students are going to be in the, what I call, career services rock star category, because they're making law school work for them, and they have all kinds of other time constraints, and they're not gonna do something.
They are a particularly inspirational breed of people.
Yeah,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
That's sort of,
So,
although I had this one guy, he's a full-time student, they just had their second child, who actually was in NICU for like a month.
Oh, boy.
And I see him at school late, and I go like, what are you doing to your wife? You
Yeah.
know, like, he says, it's crazy at home, and I'm like, well, yeah. Get over there, dear.
So,
Yeah.
let's put these discussion questions on the board.
Just
Am I going the
this
wrong
is-
way?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
do
we're
we-
going the wrong way.
When do we have to switch to
So-
the next?
Well, it's
We're
time,
sort of-
our time is up, but
Okay.
this is what we were gonna, I feel like we're talking about,
Anyways,
what we're
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, we've
But,
talked
yeah.
about a number of these things.
The
Well, that's kind of nice.
maybe not as bad as the judge, but the
said.
paralegal who wants to do work at the place where she or he is working. Also.
And that's what students
That's-
do, I mean. yeah.
But so often, they're in a position to move into a lawyer position from their paralegal position, so doing, growing into that through an externship makes a lot of sense if you can get comfortable that they're not misleading you, that they really are taking on additional responsibility and so sometimes they will work in an area that they haven't worked in before, is one way, so.
Well, that's kind of what I do when students want to do a second externship in the same place.
Exactly.
And I do allow that, and I
I
say,
do allow that
you know,
too.
and I
I
say,
do
so,
that.
you can take evidence one and evidence two, but you can't take evidence one twice.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
So, what do you, and I'll talk to the boss, the supervising attorney
Yeah.
also, kind of saying, like, you have to do this. And one guy just said, we don't actually have that variety of work, like, it would be
Right.
continuing to work. And I said, okay, then it doesn't work. And so,
Yeah.
people, you have to be careful about having the conversation so that, that they will reveal their limitations. And so some of them you can, sort of problem solve around it, and, and other ones, you say, okay, this doesn't work. I mean, it may dismay the student, which is,
As an aside, I find it really interesting that you're servicing the bottom half of your class through externships, because what I found is kind of the potential for the opposite. I mean, we have looked to see,
Yes.
are we placing everybody in the class, but like, for certain judicial ones, they want top 10% law review,
Right,
and that kind of thing.
To be clear, everyone from across the class is taking it, but I think these are particularly valuable for people that don't have a ton of experience.
Agreed,
Exactly.
And,
but
but,
how do you get them there?
well,
do you have a
another
minimum
nice
GPA by
thing,
any chance?
Have what?
A minimum GPA to do an externship?
Not for externships, for our full-time placements, toward the
Yes.
end, it's a 2.8, which is,
Oh, pretty
So-
high.
it's a threshold for other purposes, so we just used it for that as well.
Do you?
But we allow deviation, we make them set up a bar prep plan with our academic achievement staff. If academic achievement looks at their course selection, what they've got left to do, their thoughts about how they're gonna prep for the bar, they can do a full-time residency, but they have to get counseling to make
I
sure
have a
they.
student for the first time who is, she fails pretty regularly, she only has a 2.0, and she is, she's not good in the classroom, she loves being out in the field,
Yeah.
and she gets lots of, positive feedback,
Good.
which is a good thing, right? Except for the first time, I'm like, you do not have a manageable schedule, you're not going, you've created a schedule that you can't do your classes well enough.
Yeah.
And you're not one of the people that you can like cheat on it and,
Yeah,
it still pass.
Exactly.
so we do not have a minimum GPA, but we do screen all of the applicants, so I screen every application that comes through and then I pass it on. I don't deny anyone, but I do let professors know this student's had some difficulties, mentor program is a great indicator if they are not keeping up with their hours, if they're not fulfilling
You
their
asked
end
for
of
the
the bargain.
transcripts?
What's that? We did not ask for transcripts, no. We have
So
a,
you can't see what they're, I mean, it-
We have minimum 2.3 and we check their GPS.
yeah, I
And
know,
we have
I know
had
the
students who
community
have
stuff.
fallen under it like over the summer, like they'll get
Yeah.
their spring grades and then we're like, now what do we do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you
Like,
probably already lined up their placement, or
for the fall.
yes, but usually those students, because they know it's a 2.3, if they're, we've only actually had it happen one time and had, you know, talked to them about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
we also communicate with placements, so they know who's coming, they know to take students where they are, and that it's an educational
Yeah.
program. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know, certain students can do much more than others. And, you know, so we asked everybody kind of think about where you're gonna start somebody, where would you start somebody on day one, start this person there, and then evaluate the projects that they get from there. And, you know, honestly, I mean, I had someone that wanted to do intellectual property, and they have the scientific degree. Law school, it's not his thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know how he's going to do, but he had a placement where they started him where they were starting their associates, and, you know, it went okay. But I talked to that supervisor that summer, and he said it wasn't a great thing. I said, from what it sounds like, you're giving him really high level stuff. He said, you know, he did fine. I said, well, what if you had started him at lower level things? He said, yeah. And so he's gonna reevaluate his
Yeah.
placement for next time around and how he sets it up, which is it's cool. It's a fun part of the process. So.
Kendall, I think the reason that we don't is because our students who are at risk by our definition have other things that they have to do anyway. They can't
So
do
it
an
takes up your
externship
time.
instead of the other requirements that are added to them because their GPA is below a certain level. So I think we don't feel like they're adding to their risk to do an externship because they're also
Because you have
required
yeah.
to take other things
Yeah.
that.
We don't-
So
so
I
we don't have
have one other question for you
added stuff
guys.
like that.
Yeah.
Do you, students with accommodations? I've never
Yeah.
asked if, you know, you have accommodations. I now put on my
Yeah.
form, if you think you might need accommodations, talk to student affairs.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Because what came up, and it was the supervisor who told me, she said, you know, that she like evaluated the student really bad. I'm like, what? You know, why didn't you talk to me sooner? And she said, well, you know, the student told us, you know, only halfway through that she has, you know, these issues that she was just diagnosed, and so she will get accommodations. And she said if she had told us earlier, we would have given her stuff and didn't have as much reading.
Right.
And I was thinking, you know, nobody has ever told me, I mean, I've been doing this a
It's a
while,
good-
nobody has ever told me that they
Yeah.
have issues,
Right,
you know, other than super obvious ones, like
Right.
I'm in a wheelchair,
Right.
you know, you don't have to do any intercession, they take care of it themselves. But,
Yeah.
That's really good.
And,
yeah.
and I didn't think, I really don't want to be in the role of figuring out
That's
somebody's accommodations
Yeah.
in the
Well,
I don't think as a
workplace.
faculty member, you can be while at the workplace too.
Yeah,
So-
Well,
I don't
think
think
I-
we
I
even
think
know
I
about it.
could, but, you know, I just don't want to be. Yeah, most students don't want to identify themselves, like, by the way, I have processing issues, you know.
Yeah.
That's not their, they want to figure out
It's
if
not
they
a bad
can do it
point, though.
without.
Yeah.
I have a student right now. She has vision issues, and, so she came in and we talked about it, and she's great about being out front on it. And she's in the judicial externship, and some of the offices still do everything in paper, and they have case books and that kind of thing. So what I did is I talked to our professor, and, you know, that was a part of that placement process. But I'm gonna add something to my form and say, do you have any accommodations, we have an application form, do you have any accommodations that you feel you want to share, and leave it up to them, but.
I think it's
Right.
interesting, because we don't ask either, I don't think, Denise, and I
Yeah.
wonder if there's an expectation on the part of the student, like, I've reported it to student services, this is an academic.
Well, you know,
class.
interestingly, in this time
Right.
period, when this student revealed, and so it became, you know, a thought for me, I went to student affairs then, and she
Yeah.
said, yeah, this is what we should do, tell them
Yeah,
to come to
right.
me. I'll talk them through, we don't control it, so, but, we'll sort of problem solve together.
Yeah.
And so that was before the semester started, so now there's a new student affairs person,
Yeah.
and I said, so this is